Continuing on with some of the basic tools to get started with Illustrator, sometimes you want to work with a lot of shapes at one time. I'm going to Command Copy, Command Paste. And so let's say I've got these 3 shapes here that I want to work with. I'm going to delete this guy for a minute. There's a few different ways to select your shapes. One is called a rubber band select, so I'm just clicking kind of where there's nothing and I'm drawing this marquee around the shapes. Think of it like a rubber band. I'm grabbing all of these things with a rubber band by putting them around it. So now all 3 of these are selected so I can move them at one time. If I want them to be selected forever as a group, I can right click and group the objects. So now if I click on one, I'm clicking on all of them. To ungroup them, you just go back, right click, right click and ungroup, and then you can go back to moving them around. Another way to get more than one object selected is to click on one, hold Shift, and click on the other. Maybe you only want a part of it, or you want to be very specific about what you're getting because you have a lot of objects and it's hard to do the rubber band select. So those are some ways to get more than one object selected. Some really helpful commands and hotkeys that you're working with are the spacebar. The spacebar, if you just click spacebar by itself, it becomes this little hand, which is the move tool, and it lets you click and drag and move around your artboard and your workspace. That's really helpful for when you're zoomed in, for example. So I'm going to zoom in by hitting Command plus, and then I can spacebar to get to the area that I want to work in. Make sure you zoom in when it's appropriate so that you can actually see what you're working with and doing. A lot of times I see students worked way out here, but they're doing something really tiny here, and you're making your work harder than it needs to be. Other important commands that you may remember are Command Z, which is undo, so that'll go backwards, and you can Command Z for a long time, or Command Shift Z to redo, to go back where you were. Another helpful command is Command R, and that shows you rulers. And rulers are helpful because then if you want to find like the middle, so we have an 11-inch width artboard. If we want to go to the middle and go to 5.5, you can click in the ruler, drag out a guide, and drop it at 5.5 so that you know the middle. So again, that was clicking inside the ruler and dragging out. This one I'm going to drop at 4.25 or 4.25 to be halfway that way. Guides are helpful whenever you want to kind of find the edge of something, the middle of something, or line things up together. To get rid of your guides or to clear them, you can go to View, Guides, Hide, Unlock, or Clear. I'm going to clear them. And to start working with shapes in a more interesting ways, let me get a couple new shapes on here. I want to show you the Direct Selection tool. So the Direct Selection tool is here next to the Selection tool. It's a white arrow, or you can hotkey with the A. And if you click on a shape, you'll see it looks a little bit different than when you click on it with the regular selection. You start to see the path and the anchor points in a different way. And if you go in and click on, if you click on one of the anchor points, this is now selected. And so I can click and drag and change the shape of my object to be a little bit more interesting, a little more custom, organic shape. You'll notice with all of the curved points, you'll see these come off of each of the anchor points, and this is called a handle. And the handle is also adjustable, going in, going out, and changing the angle of the curve. If you want to hold Option while you click one, you'll see you'll get a little plus sign, and that lets you just do one, because usually they move together. But if you hold Option while you adjust a handle, it's moving just one of the handles. Let's go over here for a minute. So here we have our ellipse that has these points to them. If I click on one of these, again, I can move them around and start making a different kind of shape. I can also change this to a curve. So while this one's selected, up here in my option bar, you'll see convert to corner to smooth. If I click smooth, now it's like it's a curved point and it has the handles, so I can round that out. I can also delete anchor points. And that's still connected. It's still a closed shape, which is something that's important for what we're doing. But I have one less anchor point because maybe I didn't need that one anymore. If I need to add an anchor point, if you go over here where your pen tool is, and you hold it down, under here there's an add anchor point tool. The hotkey is plus sign. And then if I click right on the path, I can add a whole bunch of anchor points and have a lot more to work with to make my shape more detailed. So that direct selection tool is going to be really useful. It lets you adjust shapes and build your custom shapes in Illustrator.